With a record of 6-6 at the time of making this video, the Lakers are not exactly having the start they had in mind during the summer. There are some obvious flaws that came into the spotlight this early in the season, so the biggest question has to be asked: will this be another wasted year of LeBron's remaining time? A blowout loss against the Orlando Magic was bad, but the one versus the Houston Rockets stings even worse, especially when you have to deal with Dylan Brooks showboating. Welcome back to Hoop Vision basketball fans. Today, we're analyzing the season the Lakers are having so far, pointing out the obvious holes in their game and searching for adjustments they could make to repeat last year's run. In case you forgot, they fought their way to the Western Conference Finals, but were just overrun by the soon-to-be champions, the Denver Nuggets. Let's dive straight into basketball and see what can be done about the Lakers. Some of their stats at the beginning of the season are just terrible. Their starting lineup was being outscored in the first quarter throughout the first 8 games and by a significant margin. All 4 starting rotations implemented by Coach Ham had a negative defensive rating, and that's a huge red flag that needs to be addressed before the season starts to heat up. We know it's still early for the playoff talks, but unless they change this, they shouldn't have high hopes for the season. Knowing LeBron, if he finds some leaks intolerable, he'll pressure the front office to make necessary trades. Speaking of trades, there is one that could potentially alter the entire narrative of the Lakers, but we'll discuss it later in this video. First, we must come back to their lack of consistency and some obvious mistakes that must be corrected. Their backcourt of Reeves and D'Lo isn't clicking as expected. Last season, we've grown to like Austin Reeves for some of the amazing plays he produced out of nowhere, but there was a big reason he was able to do that. He was still a relatively unknown player looking to prove himself, so nobody expected him to make a big contribution. Now, his role is different and the pressure is much higher. Yes, he might be a pro, but we're all humans, and that has to affect him at least a bit. Also, he's playing way more with the ball in his hands, and that's not turning out to be a good thing judging by the number of committed turnovers. Last year was different because Dennis Schroeder was usually the one initiating plays, which complemented Austin's ability to read the court and make the right cuts. Now, he seems stuck in his position, so there are 2 possible scenarios for him: to withstand the storm and adjust to this new and uncomfortable role, or switch back to his old style of play. Either way, the Lakers are going to struggle if he continues playing as he is now. Another problem for the LA team is their 3-point shooting, or the lack of it to be exact. They are 26th in the league when it comes to 3-point frequency, and 27th in 3-point percentage, which is horrible for a team that has championship ambitions. Being 27th means there are 26 teams coming before you in a given category, so they'll probably end up being outscored in 3-point shooting by many teams, which again is unacceptable. The damage can be lessened by securing the rebounding area, which is another flaw Lakers must work on, but we'll talk about it later in the video. Speaking of 3-point shooting, it's very strange that the Lakers are opting for this way of playing, especially knowing LeBron's preference for driving inside and kicking the ball out. It was his bread and butter throughout his whole career, so it's not quite obvious why he didn't interfere more when the roster was being selected. Just for comparison, the biggest leap forward in LeBron's career came when he matured enough to realize he couldn't do it all by himself. What made his run with Miami such a success was not just Bosh and Wade, but the role players he assembled to complement his driving abilities. Mario Chalmers, Mike Miller, Shane Battier, Rashard Lewis, James Jones, and Ray Allen. Those were the players on the receiving end of LeBron's passes, so it's not a surprise why Miami seemed unguardable at one point. The same continued with the Cavs. Kyrie, Kevin Love, Kyle Korver, you get the point. Whenever LeBron was surrounded by good shooters, he already had one foot in the finals at the beginning of the season. It was also the same case with the Lakers in 2020. Danny Green, KCP, Markieff Morris, and others were contributing a lot from beyond the arc. In the 2020 finals, 5 of the Lakers players shot over 40% for 3, including both James and Davis, so that should tell you enough about what they must do in order to improve themselves this season. Now, 3-point shooting won't mean much without defense and rebounding, and you've guessed it, the Lakers are lacking there as well. In 6 games, they've allowed 10+ offensive rebounds, and their worst night was against the Phoenix Suns, allowing them 17 offensive boards. Surprisingly, LA somehow won the game. The most obvious defensive liability seems to be the lack of big men to support AD and James. Christian Wood is a solid center, but when you go back to 2020 and the Lakers' championship run, you cannot overlook the fact that they had 2 amazing anchors in the paint in Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, who were taking so much load off of LeBron and Davis. Despite carrying a big man label, AD is not your typical center, and playing him at the 5 will not allow him to utilize all of his strengths. Christian Wood is a great pick by the Lakers, as he's tall, quick, and rebounds after the contests made by Davis, James, and others, which is an issue when AD is their tallest man on the court. It's worth pointing out that when James, Davis, and Wood are in the same lineup, the Lakers are second in defensive rebounds percentage. This prevents second chance opportunities and putback baskets, so hopefully they'll get the hint at what they should do: surround AD with more long arms. This is especially an issue because teams will pick AD outside of the lane by playing playing the pick and roll, and from there, it's an open feast. They must get another long body throughout the season, or they'll be defensively limited so much that they may face a first-round exit. LeBron is great, but he cannot be expected to play the same defense for 40+ minutes in the playoffs and box out 4s and 5s like he did in the past. Speaking of which, LeBron is averaging 34 minutes per game, so you can judge by yourself if that's too much for a player approaching his 40s. We know he's not injury-prone, but the fact the team's season depends on him staying healthy is a little nerve-wracking. Just imagine a potential scenario where James has to miss 3 to 4 weeks of playing somewhere between February and March. In a stacked West, that could mean missing the last playoffs train, so the Lakers must adjust in a way that not only unloads some of his minutes, but also makes their scoring and playmaking less dependable of him. That's great for both LeBron and their younger players, as they'll grow their confidence for the later stage of the season while giving him a much-needed rest. Another guy who is almost certain to need rest during the season is AD. Luckily, so far he's been healthy, but the Lakers fans have a reason to be scared every time this man ties his shoelaces. AD's history with injury is just terrible, and it's preventing him from being the player he's supposed to be. Since he joined the Lakers, there has been only one season in which he didn't have to miss a big chunk of games, and you can guess which one it was. 2020, when they won the title. After that, it's been a downhill struggle for AD. In the 20-21 season, he missed 36 games. The next year, 42. This year, he's battling minor injuries but playing. Nobody knows if and when he might grab his knees or ankles and just bum out everyone watching. Unfortunately, this is the area which the Lakers don't have much control over, so all they can do is try to make it easier for their main guys and hope for the best. Lastly, we promised you a trade rumor that could potentially change the Lakers season. If you're actively following the league, you might know the Bulls are looking to switch things up, and there's a big chance Zach LaVine will be leaving the Windy City. Chicago would probably want to get a young player, some draft picks, and some salary cap space in return. The Lakers could provide all three by giving away D'Lo and Rui Hachimura alongside the 2029 first-round pick and a 2030 swap. What also puts the Lakers as a frontrunner in this situation is that Zach LaVine was drafted as a 13th pick from UCLA, so he would be basically going home to play for a better team, making it a win-win for him. We know the Lakers are lucky with guys who were drafted 13th, hint at Kobe Bryant, so it would be interesting to see how LaVine would fit into their chemistry. That's it for today, dear friends. If you have any thoughts about the Lakers season so far, make sure to share them in the comments below. Since the NBA season has started, there will be plenty of new takes, news, and NBA stories, so make sure not to miss them by hitting that subscribe button. Until next time.